Jesus Christ, you are the light of the world. The light no darkness can overcome. Stay with us now, for it is evening, and the day is almost over. Let your light scatter the darkness and shine within your people here. Joyous light of heavenly glory, loving love all God's ways, you sing creation's story, shine on every land and race. As evening falls around us, we shall raise our songs to you. God of daybreak, God of shadows, come and light our hearts anew. In the stars that grace the darkness, in the blazing sun of dawn, on the light of peace and wisdom, we can hear your quiet song. Love that fills the night with wonder, love that warms the weary soul, love that bursts the chains asunder, set us free and make us whole. You lead the heaven's splendor, every dancing star of light. Make us shine with gentle justice, let us each reflect your light. Mighty God of all creation, gentle Christ who lights our way, loving Spirit of salvation, lead us on to endless day. May God be with you all, and also with you. Let us give our thanks to God. It is right to give God thanks and praise. Blessed are you, Creator of the universe. Lord, you have led your people by night and day. May the light of your Christ make our darkness bright. For your word and your presence are the light of our pathways, and you are the light and life of all creation. Let my prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you. Oh God, I call to you, call to me now. Oh, hear my voice when I cry, my voice when I cry to you. My prayer rise up like incense before
May our prayers come before you, O God, as incense, and may your presence surround and fill us, so that in union with all creation we might sing your praise and your love in our lives. Amen. Our reading tonight is selections from St. Matthew's Gospel in the 18th and 19th chapter. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a child whom he had put among them and said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever is humble like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." Then little children were being brought to him in order that he might lay his hands on them and pray. The disciples spoke sternly to those who brought them. But Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me and do not stop them. For it is to such as these that the kingdom of heaven belongs." And he laid his hands on them and went on his way. You know, sometimes a movie comes along right when you need it. After a particularly long day in what had been an especially long year in 2003, I decided that I wanted to do nothing more at the end of my day than just go home, bury myself underneath the blankets, and wait for sunrise. But a friend convinced me that what we really needed to do was go to the movies. Now, if you're much of a moviegoer, you know November is not prime time for movies. November is sort of when it's too late for all the summer blockbusters that were out. They're all gone now, and it's too early to catch the holiday blockbusters, and so you're usually left with lackluster films. And as we showed up to the theater, we were trying to figure out what to watch, and we settled on the movie Elf. And I have to tell you, walking into that theater, I was not real happy. I actually didn't even want to be there in the first place, and now I've got to go see a Christmas movie. Well, I can tell you that in that 1 hour and 37 minutes that movie went on, I think at that point I laughed more than I had in a very, very long time. Now, if you haven't seen Elf, it's pretty simple. Elf is about a human named Buddy who mistakenly, as a child, makes it into Santa's Christmas gift sack and gets taken back to the North Pole. Unsure of what to do with him, he was raised there in the North Pole with other elves. He even comes to think that he is an elf, even though, as Leon the snowman points out to him, he's 6'3" and had been shaving a full beard since he was 15. When he finds out that the elf who raised him was not actually his biological father, Buddy sets off to New York to find his biological dad, a gruff and unfriendly book editor by the name of Walter. What makes Elf so endearing is that it takes that classic fish out of water scenario and gives it a little twist. You see, Buddy's a grown man, but he's really, functionally, just an overgrown child. He's innocent, and he's sweet, and he sees the best in everyone and in every situation. Of course, plopping a person down like that in the middle of a bunch of hardened New Yorkers leads to some pretty funny moments in the film, but also some very endearing ones. For Buddy, every new sight, every new experience, even things that people take for granted, are met with wonder and excitement. There's this great part in the film where he just gets to New York and he sees a sign outside of this trashy little diner that says, "World's greatest cup of coffee," and he bursts in and screams at the top of his lungs, "Congratulations, you did it!" You can't watch the film and not pull for Buddy. So often, when we say that an adult is acting like a child, we mean it as an insult. We refer to people as childish or immature and tell them that what they need is to grow up. And when we do so, I think we inadvertently suggest that childhood is something bad or negative. We sometimes forget that childhood is a gift. Think for a moment about the words that we heard in the gospel. Unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. What could Jesus have meant by that? I think the first thing that we need to understand is that people weren't bringing just any children to Jesus. They were bringing little children. They were bringing probably infants to Jesus. Babies. I think back to when my kids were babies. Every new stage of development was exciting. Every new stage brought something different. That old saying that children grow up before you know it is so often repeated because it is so true. As I was preparing for this sermon and thinking about the movie and the gospel, I couldn't help but think back to Christmas 2008. It was Matt, my youngest son. It was his first Christmas. He had been born on Easter that year and was only about 9 months old at that Christmas season, not old enough to understand Christmas or presents or why mom and dad had drug a tree into the living room. And at 9 months old, I'm not sure that he knew what a tree was just yet. But as he sat there on the floor and watched the rest of the family put decorations and lights on the tree, he couldn't help but notice him being very attentive. And when everything was done, and Azelle plugged the lights in for the first time, his eyes grew so large as he took in the warm glow of the lights from the tree. Now, at 9 months old, he couldn't understand or know what was happening, but he knew that he was bathed in and enamored by the light. Sadly, what happens when we get older is that we lose that sense of warmth and wonder. Christmas lights, they're not really magic, are they? They're just strung up by mom or dad or by us, and they're plugged into a wall. That doesn't mean we don't appreciate them. They just become less special to us. We're happy when the holiday season rolls around and the Christmas lights come back on, but we expect them. We even take them for granted. Sometimes we even see the lights as a hassle. Just one more duty to be fulfilled, one more item on a long holiday to-do list to check off. Every night during Vespers, the church prays, Jesus Christ, you are the light of the world, the light no darkness can overcome. Do you remember your first encounter with the light that is Jesus? When you, like a young child, were moved by the marvel of the profound truth that the same God that created the universe is the same God that knows you by name and loves you. It is a wonderful truth to know and an even better truth to live. And sadly, for so many of us, we have times in our lives when the light doesn't appear as brightly as it once did. Sometimes it's because we have chosen to dwell in darkness rather than light. Other times, life's circumstances might cloud our vision and we fail to see the light's true radiance. And then there are those times when the light seems like less of a blessing and more of a burden. And so we acknowledge that the light exists, but we do little more than pay it lip service. When Jesus says he wants us to be like little children, I think he is telling us that he wants us to see him for who and what he really is, the light of the world. Like my son at the sight of his first Christmas tree, Jesus hopes that our eyes will perceive the wonder of his love for us, and that all the days of our lives may be spent walking in that light. As we are reminded in Isaiah 9, the people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shone. And tomorrow night is Christmas Eve, and we will celebrate the coming of that light. May we hear that word anew and follow the light all the days of our lives. Amen.
An angel went from God to a town called Nazareth, to a woman whose name was Mary. The angel said to her, "Rejoice, O highly favored, for God is with you. You shall bear a child, and his name shall be Jesus, the chosen one of God Most High." And Mary said, "I am a servant of my God. I live to do your will." My soul proclaims your greatness, O God, and my spirit rejoices in you,
Let us pray. Great and merciful God, source and ground of all goodness and life, give to your people the peace that passes all understanding and the will to live your gospel of mercy and justice through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. God, remember us in your love and teach us to pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Save us from the time of trial and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever.
Let us bless our God.